universe is all about balance. The supreme hallmark of reality is balance. Dominance motivation predicts an array of outcomes. If we analyze and understand geopolitical conflicts, whether military or non military, inter or intrastate, involving a large number of protagonists or just two, a large territory or a small one, then we will find economics as a source of conflict. China and India are considered as two powerful states of Asia. The unprecedented economic growth in these two countries is being noticed by the rest of the world with awe and disbelief. It is being widely predicted that these two countries would soon become the next world economic superpowers. We will discuss about the several factors of a phenomenal growth taking place in India and China and investigates the possibilities of either country attaining the world economic supremacy. The roots of global economy can be found in the 15th century. It started with the expansion of trade and distribution and continued with the development of industry and services. The global economy has changed significantly during the past decades, especially after the fall of Berlin Wall in 1989. Governments, policymakers, researchers, businessmen, managers, and social activists are highly interested in understanding the way the global economy works today. As the topic of global economy is interdisciplinary and complex, it can be studied from different perspectives and level of analysis. The macro level deals with international organizations and regimes. The meso level emphasizes the role played by countries and companies, and the micro level insists on the literature related to globalization and transitional movements. The political power without economic power is sterile. The objective of this video are to present the evolution of world's two largest economies of Asia by gross domestic product in the period of 2015 to 2022, and to emphasize the economic competition between India and China. We will today understand what is India's master plan to counter China. India and China have been fighting fiercely over influence of the continent. Both are trying to dominate the markets, but in the last 10 years, China has acquired the power with its economic projects along the Eastern Hemisphere. This includes much of Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, and the islands of Oceania. India might be a large trading partner in its own right, but China's Belt and Road Initiative has fired agitation of encirclement. Now, to tackle this, India is also launching several ambitious commercial paths in every direction. If successful, the paradigm could reform trade across the region. India would renovate into a pillar of globalized economy, giving it economic influence and political say. It is a magnificent strategy of extensive geopolitical weight. Since joining the World Trade Organization in 2001, China has sought for ways to reinvent regional connectivity in Eurasia. The well-known example of this policy is the Belt and Road Initiative, which contains two parts. One, the overland corridor consists of a collection of Chinese constructed rail and road infrastructure that extends westward from Central Asia to Europe. We are calling it the New Silk Road. The second part is a maritime route that consists of Chinese constructed ports that grow westward across the Indian Ocean. Chinese lawmakers call it the string of pearls. The string of pearls refers to the Chinese network of military and commercial facilities and relationships along its sea lines. The strategy has been developed by China to protect its trade interests. Connectivity projects are oftentimes seen as tools of exercising influence, which is why the Belt and Road Initiative bypasses India as a means of overlooking the competition. In fact, some projects such as Karakoram Highway, Gwadar Seaport, and the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor outright put down India from entering the markets in Central Asia. We can say that Belt and Road Initiative heightened China's hand while hindering India's sway over its neighbors. The fear is that the new ports, highways, and railways could one day aid China in the event of a military conflict. And when looking at the map, it is not difficult to imagine that India is being encircled by China. This is unacceptable. India's answer is the International North-South Transport Corridor, first signed in September 2000. The corridor looks to develop India's network to reaching European markets. Starting at Mumbai, a multi-modular route would link with the Iranian port at Bandar Abbas. From there, rail infrastructure would link to Baku in Azerbaijan and then to Astrakhan in Russia. The corridor would go further still to Moscow and finally resting at St. Petersburg with a length of 7,200 kilometers. The north-south transportation corridor would stop at various hubs, building value chain in the process. A value chain is a set of activities that a firm operating in a specific industry performs in order to deliver a valuable product to the end customer. So a route going from point A to point B steadily develops additional hubs within these 2 points, creating a dynamic manufacturing belt that stretches nations and regions. The trouble, however, is Iran. Being a mountainous country means that the Iranians are lagging on rail infrastructure. There are still places that need overhauling. This should not be a problem were it not for the fact that Iran is under international sanctions, making economic collaboration difficult and risk. India has spent 20 years improving and balancing the technical aspects of the corridor, but it has made no progress whatsoever. As long as Iran is beset by sanctions, the north-south transport corridor will remain a questionable venture. In 2014, India came up with a more modest policy called Neighborhood First. The aim was to resolve India's differences with its smaller neighbors, thereby restraining China's influence in the region. India opened its checkbook and extended generous lines of credit, commercial contracts, and foreign aid. Bhutan, for instance, received a sum of about $350 million in the foreign aid in 2019. There was some success in the early phase of the program, but those advances have reversed over the years. The Maldives, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Bangladesh have in fact grown closer to China. Satirically, Afghanistan was the only real success story in the Neighborhood First policy, but every bit of Taliban influence dissolved with the Taliban's takeover. The lack of success compelled India to take on a new striking plan in 2017, and this time teaming up with Japan. The project designated as the Asia-Africa Growth Corridor was the handiwork of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Shinzo Abe. The objective was to link India with Africa through new shipping lanes. India has strong ties with Southeast Africa through trade and diaspora, and Modi has visited nearly every African country during his political career. So the idea made sense and served a strategic motive. However, the Asia-Africa Growth Corridor was designed as a bottom-up process. Its blueprint held no concrete implementation plan. Even the African nations that were supposed to take part in this corridor were never disclosed. As of 2021, there has been no progress regarding the corridor. In the point of fact, the stunning lack of progress leads many to believe that the whole project was merely a publicity stunt to bolster Indian-Japanese relations on a political level. Business-wise, the Asia-Africa Growth Corridor can be considered dead on arrival. Neither Indian nor Japanese lawmakers even bring it up. Thus, far with the North-South Transport Corridor being frozen, the failure of the Neighborhood First policy and the PR stunt of Asia-Africa Growth Corridor, it seems like India has been grasping at stretch. Failure is not opposite of success, it is part of success. But India continues with its effort. India's latest commercial belt is aiming for Europe and it seems to be more practical than the previous programs. Coined as the Arab Mediterranean route, the project looks to connect India to Europe markets via existing road and rail infrastructure in the Middle East. In a policy report published by the Institute of South Asian Studies at the University of Singapore, Professor Michael Denham examines a paradigm shift in India's Euro-Asian connectivity. It is a plan that was unthinkable just a few years ago. The game changer is Israel's recent normalization with its Arab neighbors. Rail connection is being established at a rapid pace, going from ports in the United Arab Emirates to Saudi Arabia and Jordan to Israel port city of Haifa. From the Israeli coast, goods will be shipped across the Mediterranean to Piraeus in Greece, and from there further inland into continental Europe. India's goal is to tap into that emerging corridor and develop an arc of commerce extending from India to the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, Greece, and all the way to Germany. The interesting thing is that India would not be alone in reconfiguring the Arab Mediterranean corridor. It would merely have to extend the belt from Abu Dhabi to Mumbai. Most of the infrastructure for this corridor is already in place. The UAE has several ports that can serve as connectivity modes, and much of the railway network going to Israel is complete. Only about 300 kilometers remains to be built in Jordan and Saudi Arabia. Once the Arab Mediterranean corridor is operational, Indian goods leaving Mumbai could arrive in the European mainland in as little as 10 days. But it is not just Europe that would be the main destination. By linking into the existing infrastructure, India can help develop value chain along the corridor. Planning for the future is always important. India's giant agricultural sector could emerge as an indispensable force in the regional supply and demand. To give some context, climate change is expected to affect the Middle East drastically in the coming decades. The region is warming at twice the global average. By 2050, there will be prolonged periods of heat waves, while desertification will accelerate and droughts will last longer. Food and water will become scarce precious commodities. India, being the fourth largest agricultural producer, could step up as the food basket of Middle East. Already, plans are set in motion. India is set to invest roughly $7 billion in creating new mega food parks, and it is working closely with Israel to enhance agricultural output. India has also signed a comprehensive strategic partnership with the United Arab Emirates, promising to boost bilateral trade by 60% and new infrastructure investments worth up to $75 billion. Some reports suggest Emirates-based companies are currently constructing and acquiring new ports along the perimeters of the Indian Ocean. So, while the Arab Mediterranean corridor looks primarily at the markets in Europe, the agonizing situation in the Middle East opens new avenues for commerce. However, as exciting as the Arab Mediterranean corridor sounds, there is a catch. For most, the plan is a geopolitical minefield. Going into business with Saudi Arabia and Israel would harm relations with Iran and inject India into the intricate power plays of the Middle East. It would be like putting the cat among the pigeons. Furthermore, the Greek port of Piraeus is owned by COSCO Shipping, which is the Chinese state-owned conglomerate. So if India plans to counter China by creating alternative routes to Europe, going via Piraeus is a bad call. That means, in the long run, India will either have to construct a port of its own somewhere in the Eastern Mediterranean or obtain an existing port or possibly even diversify its export nodes. Still, in spite of the complications, an arc from India to the Middle East and Europe is a sensible, practical course of action. India cannot change China's influence by fighting the existing reality. Change is the law of universe, and those who look only to the past or present are certain to miss the future. This is Eddie for Network Intelligence and Analysis. So guys, this was for today. Thanks for watching and your time. Join with our YouTube communities. If you like what we do, please leave a like, comments and subscribe. Thank you very much.